Hey, it's Bola from Clever Girl Finance, and in this video, I'm going to be talking with you guys about some key things that you need to know before you do a balance transfer. Okay, so one of the most common ways people manage their credit card debt and paying it off is by transferring their balances from one or multiple cards to a card that offers them an introductory rate that's typically at 0%. However, while this might be a great way to pay off your credit card debt and save yourself money on interest if you know what you're doing, it can also be a dangerous game to get into that could potentially cost you even more money in interest payments. One thing to keep in mind is that when it comes to balance transfers, the credit card companies are making money. It is not a favor they're doing you. They're not giving you a 0% interest rate or a low introductory interest rate because they're trying to be nice to you or do you a favor. They're doing this because this is one of the ways in which they make money. And how do they make money? Well, most people typically do not pay off their entire balance within that introductory period, within that 12 months or 6 months or 18 months, whatever that time frame may be. And it's really because of the psychology around the offer. A lot of people that get into balance transfers start to think that, well, now I have this 0% interest rate. I have time. I have 18 months. I have 24 months to pay that off. I'll do it at some point. And they kind of get into this space where they get comfortable with that balance and knowing that it's at 0%. They're not being charged that much interest. And the time goes by, and before they know it, it's 18 months, it's 24 months, and the introductory rate is over, and they actually haven't paid off the balance. And guess what happens? Well, the credit card company is now able to charge you interest and even fees based on the agreement that you had signed with them when you first signed on for that balance transfer. And when you think about it, when you look at the situation, it could actually cost you way more money in interest payments and in fee payments than if you hadn't even moved over your balances to that 0% introductory rate credit card in the first place. So all of that being said, a balance transfer can actually be a great way to manage paying off your credit card debt and actually minimizing the total amount of interest you pay over the lifeline of that debt. However, you need to have a strategy so you can make sure that you're taking advantage of that balance transfer, of that introductory rate, and not ending up having to pay a ton of interest or a ton of fees because you kind of didn't have a plan for that balance transfer and you allowed the introductory rate to end. So I'm going to talk you through some key things you want to make sure that you know and understand before you do a balance transfer. So first things first, you want to know for sure that you're going to be able to pay off the entire balance before the introductory rate of your balance transfer ends. You want to calculate those numbers out. You want to break it down into every month, plan it according to your paycheck, and make sure that you can pay off that balance in full before your 0% or your very low introductory rate offer ends. Otherwise, it may not be a great idea to do that balance transfer. Secondly, you want to be aware of any associated fees that are tied to the balance transfer, and you also want to make sure that the timeline makes sense for you. So for example, some balance transfers require that you pay a percentage of your actual balance as a processing fee. Also, when you think about the timeline for the introductory rate, that 0%, that low interest rate doesn't make sense for you. So does 6 months work for you to be able to pay off that balance in full, or does the 12-month timeline, whatever timeline they give you, does it work for you? Is it realistic for you when you think about being able to pay off your entire balance? You also want to consider the what ifs. So let's say you're unable to pay off your entire balance within that introductory time period, right? Does your new interest rate, the new interest rate that you're going to have after the timeline expires, does that make sense for you? Is it way more than what you're paying now in interest where your balance is, or is it lower? Because that could be another indication as to whether or not this balance transfer is going to make sense for you. And thirdly, another thing for you to think about is maybe you should just focus on where your balance is now and aggressively work on paying it off. Because by the time you factor in the processing fees, doing the calculations around the timeline and when you'll be able to pay off the balance, your interest rate if the introductory offer expires and you haven't paid off your balance, it might not even make any sense at all to do the balance transfer. So maybe you just need to focus on where your balance is right now and get aggressive when it comes to paying it off. Make the extra payments, increase your income, and use the money from your increased income towards your debt so you can get it out of your life as quickly as possible. So before you do a balance transfer, you want to weigh all the pros and cons and make sure that it makes sense for you. So I hope these tips have been useful, and if you have enjoyed watching this video, please subscribe to this channel and head over to clevergirlfinance.com and subscribe there as well. I have a ton of awesome articles and content on there, and I would love for you to join me on Instagram at clevergirlfinance. We have a great conversation and a ton of fun talking about all things money on Instagram. I'll talk to you guys in my next video.